Hi, my name is George Rumble. I'm from the Warumpi band, the first Aboriginal band to get out a rock and roll music in Aboriginal language.
Listen, everybody!
He was a musician, a dancer, a hunter, a great teacher. He was everything.
For my money, he was more exciting than any other rock and roll performer I ever saw.
Rock. I'm gonna rock it. And he used to rock it.
Then I got more bass, you know, and I was still a drinker.
Alcohol was an issue.
You might get on the charge and run amok or go missing.
Where the fuck is George? There's the fella that had the flair, the sex appeal, the want and the energy. And you can't leave out the blackness.
I saw how George could reach out and touch people and open their hearts to make them celebrate and embrace Aboriginality.
I want to educate black and white. That was my aim. That's why I believe there's the two worlds in me.
We gotta be strong!
I love music with all my soul, with all my heart, you know. I love music, I love listening to it, I love singing. I grew up at Elk Island, and I was born at Elk Island, but I originally come from Balka. That's near Gold, Yirkala, Nhulunbuy. And that was my grandfather's land. Back in 1979, I went to School of Australian Linguistics, which is Bachelor College, and learning a lot of languages. I feel like learning another language, which is in Central Australia.
I see out of the corner of my eye this skinny fella walking down the road, you know, and he's got a big shock of sort of, you know, afro fluffy hair kind of thing. He looked a bit darker than the desert fellas, you know. And the door of my flat was open, and he looked inside and he could see there was a guitar lying on my swag. And he just stopped and he said, "Oh, you got a guitar?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm a singer man." I said, "Are you?" He said, "What time you having band?" I said, "Oh, this afternoon we'll be there." He said, "I'll see you there."
When they first saw me coming up to them, and they straight out called out for me, "Hey, George, come here." They asked me, "In your rock and roll, you know that we can have a jam?" And I said, "Oh, yeah."
We had these songbooks. He had all these books. Bee Gees, Status Quo, blah, 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 you know. And he just come in talking up and big note and like he was running the band. I hadn't twigged that he was actually Sammy's brother-in-law. He'd come to Papunya to marry Sammy's sister, Sazina. So there was no way he wasn't going to be in the band.
I'm gonna take a plane. I'm gonna take a plane. Any way you do it, I'm in the plane.
They didn't really have a name when they started. They were just because they were playing it at Papunya and that. And the old name for Papunya is Warumpi, honey ant dreaming. And he said to me, people were saying, "Oh, that band's still playing over there, Warumpi?"
So we were the band from Warumpi. So Warumpi band was bestowed upon us. We started playing covers first. And GR, to my delight, loved rock and roll. He loved, you know, Little Richard, Chuck Berry.
I like Chuck Berry because he had this rhythm and blues, and I like rhythm and blues. I love the way they sing straight from their heart and sort of like a message. They sang it to the people.
He's more than Chuck Berry, and he belted out like Little Richard more.
Used to talk about Little Richard and all these people say, "I love Little Richard. He's the king and queen of rock and roll." He used to talk about Little Richard all the time.
All right. Hear that? Are you getting ready? Are you getting ready? Are you getting ready? Yeah!
Back in 1980s, we took our message throughout the remote areas and very small where there's not enough people, but we still took our message there away from our family, you know?
We just packed up everything and we just went, you know.
Places like Derby and Wyndham and Kununurra. This band was the first band that no other band of Australia have been to.
Like we could tour ourselves, initially we used to, in our own cars, early Holdens and Falcons, Utes mostly.
We slept on the road, and in the morning we would hear semi-trailers, like big trucks, going past. We played in the cold, we played in the hot summer, we played in dust. We played all around, everywhere.
We just wanted to play. Doesn't matter whether there were 20 of them there or 100 of them there. Just wanted to spread these songs.
This is Karma Radio on 8 Kin FM and the shortwave service VL8A.
Karma started as a radio station, but there wasn't much music around, so they had to start Karma Music in a sense to actually start creating music to put on the radio, and specifically music in language.
Some Papunya mob, they don't understand English, so better to write our own song, regional songs in language, so they can understand. I just got out from jail. I'm going back home to Papunya.
I remember first seeing Warumpi Band, and it's George with the boomerangs, you know, coming out of the jail cell and then getting in the car in the back of a ute and driving across the desert, barreling up the highway, and this fantastic music behind them, and it just had this sense of freedom and blackness that you'd just never seen on television.
The jail song came on, and my dad turned straight to the television and he burst out laughing, and I got offended. Dad, what are you doing laughing? He's our brothers. He was so happy to see, you know, an Aboriginal group performing a rock and roll song in their language.
were playing in Tennant Creek one day and the word came through that 2JJ had played that single. That was a thrill to hear it on radio. We all thought we were going to be huge. First time we heard a song was on, played on radio in the cities, we thought, oh, that's it, Toyotas for all.
Keeping a finger on the pulse of creativity led to independents bringing the Warumpi Band to Sydney from Papania, west of Alice Springs. In June and July, Warumpi will perform in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide.
By that stage, it was getting a bit much for me to do everything, you know, so I was really looking for a hand. David Cook might have been around, he might have done something for us. I got on to David and just, can you come up and give us a hand? So he came up.
It was a really good equation for something that could really happen. And you could really see that this band had potential.
Let's check out Aussies on the Move. Our Indigenous musical roots are to the fore on the Warumpi Band's Big Nam No Blanket album. The Warumpis are currently on the breadline across the top of Australia.
The Warumpi Band is the first time that an Aboriginal person has really been able to declare who he is, where he's from, and what he wants to the wider Australian public, and do it in a way that's pulling people in and not pushing anybody out.
Black fella, we're white fella. It doesn't matter what your color, as long as you a real fella, as long as you a true fella.
You know, when you see an audience that used to sing Stand Up and Be Counted, you know, white fellas and black fellas alongside each other singing stand up and be counted. You know, at the end of their set, they used to drop out the music and people would sing that together.
Stand up and be I want you to sing jump, jump. Stand up and I want to see everyone jump.
It was a beautiful moment. You'd think, yes, this is Australia. This is what we can do. This is what music can do. It can bring people together. And are you going to stand up and be counted alongside us with Aboriginal people?
I want to educate black and white. That was my aim. That's why I believe there's the two worlds in me.
There was a lot of people were singing back then about, there was a sort of bit of brown skin baby and the rain's coming down and the Tanami floods or this kind of stuff. And then Warumpi was singing about getting out of jail and sit down money and all these got to be strong and all these sort of much more forward thinking kind of political inclined songs, and it was amazing. They weren't afraid to shy away from issues of the time and ironically issues of today.
Australia had arranged the window in such a way that we pretended we weren't racist, but we're actually a really deeply racist country.
As it went on, sort of saw that we were in a position to be able to comment on things and to make statements about things that perhaps other bands couldn't because of our makeup. We had an Indigenous frame of reference, and that influenced a lot of the songs.
Neil Murray, of course, brought a white boy perspective to it. He had grown up with probably different things than the Butcher Brothers and George had grown up with. And so it was an interesting mixture. It was a nice intertwining of musical cultures.
Together, they formed this force of nature that, took the country by storm.
We did a lot of gigs and word of mouth just spread, and people picked up on us.
Every time they played, when there was a reasonable crowd, didn't matter what the crowd was, people got off on the band.
Neil had the power chords and you know, that sort of real AC/DC backbone, and Sammy had this consummate perfection of plucking, and you know, and George just fucking out there running amok.
Listen to me, I'm from the bush, I'm talking to you, from the bush.
From the desert, they needed George in a way to bring them together. George's, you know, top-end sort of nature and his sort of talent for being a showman really gave them a spearhead.
He just had to step out on stage with them pants on or that vest and off he'd go, and he was amazing to watch.
Skinny, mimi, charismatic, Ayatollah of rock and roller are probably call him.
George obviously wanted to be a rock star. I mean, George wanted to be, you know, like a Mick or a Michael or whatever. He obviously enjoyed an audience. He had that teasing, taunty cockiness that all great rock stars have.
Rock. I'm gonna rock it. And he used to rock it.
For my money, he was more exciting than any other rock and roll performer I ever saw. More than Mick Jagger, more than Roger Daltrey.
That face and those eyes, that smile right around her ear.
He comes on stage and does that fantastic move where he points his finger like that.
And I'm talking to you. And he would eyeball that person right down and he'd point, and that person would be glowing and the ten alongside him would be glowing. You know? As a songman and as a dancer, cleverly combined all that cultural movement without marring integrity and dignity and values and morals of culture.
There's that saying that everyone's replaceable or something, but that doesn't apply to George.
A week ago, Warumpi Band began a national tour which takes in every state. The tour is called Go Bush, which is also the name of their forthcoming album.
I remember being backstage in this rickety old town hall in Nimbin, and it was on a hill, you know, and as soon as the Warumpi Band come on and they started singing and getting into it, the whole foundation started to shake, and we got a bit worried because we thought, oh my God, we're going to slide down this blasted hill any minute now. But it didn't stop, it just kept rocking.
Those moments, it was like, I'm in exactly where I want to be. This is the only band I ever wanted to be in. This is the business, you know. It was like on fire, and you could see the grin on Sammy's face, and you feel the energy is just like putting you up there, it's like shoving you up there. You're up there.
Not exactly like barbecue ribs, are they? When we decided that we were going to go and tour into the remote regions, well, we wanted to take a band with us who were from there. And of course, on a good night, the Warumpis were, I think, one of our greatest rock and roll bands. I mean, in some ways, they were the Rolling Stones of the desert.
One night, Warumpi was the headline, and the next Midnight Oil was the headline.
Yeah, in some places, Warumpis were definitely the big name.
Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands his family's man?
To be able to travel and tour with another rock and roll band, who obviously we shared the musical connection, meant that as we got to know one another, but also as we went to places, they could tell us about where we were and provide us with a kind of insight and an understanding that we never would have got otherwise.
I'm going to Europe for the first time with the Warumpi band. I said, "Dale, this is it. This is where white people come from." And you said, "How come they don't speak English? This is in Paris."
That was in Paris. And he said, "No, they're different tribes. French." Ah.
Okay. Again in the camera. Yeah, more. We make many. I come closer later and we just hit heads after. Yeah.
I was generating a lot of the songs, but I was sharing them with the other fellas, especially sharing if they contributed in some way.
What, was it the black fellow, white fellow tour? Or part of it?
Part of it.
I wrote some great songs with GR together. Way I thought. I had a bit of a chord sequence and he just all of a sudden went into, whoa, way I thought, over this chord sequence. And he told me the yarn about going to his grandfather's land, not being able to get a feed, no hunting, no fish, nothing. What's going on, you know?
And one day he turned up with a piece of paper to the studio. It was the lyrics to Wayathal. And we just thought that was the best song best lyrics we'd ever seen from George. And all in English. He said, "See, it's in English. See, look, it's in English." I says, "Mate, it's great."
But the land was strange to me. Off I got for fishing to get some supper. Nothing happened. I didn't see nothing. No crab, no fish, no anything. And then, at that night, I slept and I had clapstick and didgerid in my dream coming out. And that's the story that I wrote about that land. And I dreamed all people coming to see. We write a nice song, a good song, and we don't write something rubbish and something this and that, you know. We write song by looking and by feeling. And we want to be free like this here, where this open sea and fresh air. You don't need fan, you know. It's too expensive to live in the city.
For I come from the song for the people. We always lived by the sea. Now I'm out here west of Alice Spring with a wife and a family and my island home, my island home, my island home is waiting for me.
Now, a song like My Island Home, I wrote that totally on my own, but I wrote it for him to sing. And it came to me on a bus travelling from Melbourne to Sydney. It was a couple of weeks after I'd been to Gallowinka and spent about 4 or 5 days with him and his family, camped on a remote beach. We went turtle hunting and we lived off the land. It was a beautiful time, you know. And I'd been missing this country where I'm from, living in Central Australia. And after I'd seen Jar's country, saw where he could really come from, I just made the connection. Well, he probably misses that place, you know. I played it on the cassette player in the car, just acoustic. And he listened to it, and he listened to it through, and he says, "That's number one." He said, "That's talking about my life."
I close my eyes and I'm standing in a
when you hear those lyrics and he talks about, and I close my eyes and I'm standing in a boat on the sea again and I'm holding my turtle spear and I feel I'm close now to where it must be. My island home is waiting for me. You know, those lyrics talk about that deep Indigenous connection and longing for land that we understand, you know, and that's the thing that underpins land rights. So you don't have to say, you know, land rights necessarily because it's in the song. Really, it should be the national anthem.
My island home, my island home, my island home is waiting for me.
I thought, wow, this song is really this is gonna break Aboriginal music into the mainstream music arena and into radio and whatever. And I was bitterly disappointed that it didn't. And I think it was a cowardly moment for the Australian music industry, and particularly Australian radio.
It was hard to get commercial airplay, you know. It was a double-edged sword. We had novelty value in that people saw us as an Aboriginal band, but sometimes you'd be dismissed because of that, you know.
The average urban white Australian rock audience understood much more readily Cold Chisel singing about a Vietnam vet coming home and sort of banging a Hong Kong mattress all night long. You know, they understood it more.
Hello! Hi, Warumpi Band. My name's Michelle, and of course we're from the ABC, and we're doing a bit of a film about you guys appearing tonight.
Right. When you walk on the street, they'll say, I know you. I know you. You from the Warumpi Band, lead singer. Give me money, you know. Now give me a smile. Give me something, you know. Penny.
So you're a bit of a star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of, you know.
Bit of a sex symbol, do you think?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that? Is it a bit of pressure, do you think, being a bit of a sex symbol, you know, in the Indigenous music scene in Australia?
Yeah.
Cool.
You're walking around with a superstar. You know, he gets stopped every 5 minutes. You know, oh, Warumpi. You know, when's your next show? And we're always asking for autograph. And I think he really enjoyed that because it was a sign of recognition.
Who's from Sydney? I'm not originally from Boyego. We're bunch of Morris. Land rights.
Everybody was telling me, yeah, you know, that Warumpi singer, that's my cousin. You know, I'm from Alcar, but I got family from Milingimbi and Groot Island and Nooker, and all of a sudden I'm going, whoa, it's kind of overwhelming to me because I'd say, well, everybody's connected. Everybody wants to be connected to this guy.
How are you? Good.
What brought you here?
Oh, we come see Warumpi Band.
Around about 8, 9, then I realized that my father was famous. Every time when I see a newspaper, I see my father in a newspaper, then in a TV. I was thinking, what if my father is famous?
And I saw him on the TV, and I said, that's the future for me and all my kids and his kids.
He knew he was a star, and he let everybody know it. You know, that was him. That was him.
Everyone's his friend, you know. We're in an Australian city, and he would go off with anyone. He'd lose him. He'd lose him in the city, and Sammy would be worried about him. Shit, he shouldn't be going off with anyone. He should be staying with us, you know.
He was sort of like the Dennis Hopper of Aboriginal Australia in lots of ways. He was like so talented, you know, and so brilliant, but also this wild man. So people knew that, you know, if you get Warumpi Band to play, or if you get George to play, there's going to be some fallout, potentially, because he might get on the charge and run amok or go missing.
Where the fuck is George, in a sense, you know, when you were doing stuff with him and he wasn't in his hotel room the morning when you were supposed to pick him up to go to work.
I remember we couldn't find George and I went looking for him backstage, and he had this voice and took me up to a hotel room, and he was getting his ass massaged. I said, Jesus, mate. I said, Neil's pissed off out there, brother. You better get out of there. Hey, right, I'll get there directly. Yeah. I said, you got to get there now because you play. We finished playing. That's why I'm here talking to you, brother. You know.
Is there 2 pieces there?
Well, we can do it that way.
That's neat, that way.
And about the changes of the band. Oh, yeah, we had a lot of changes in the band.
See you.
Yeah.
By the end of the late 80s, the band had really had enough. Sammy and Gordon really didn't want to spend much more time on the road. They had kids, young kids, as did George.
He would go away for might be for 2 months, but it was so difficult, you know. A mother with 3 kids, but I used to sit at home doing my own duties, and I used to wait until he would come back after the end of the tour.
Got to send money back to family. Got to give all your money to the wife before you leave. As soon as you leave, something happens at home, got to go home.
This was a cause of conflict as we went along because my aspirations weren't necessarily aligned with the other fellas. I think they'd be aligned with GR's. I think he was fairly ambitious, but the other guys less so. I think they'd be happy to just play around the communities, you know. But I could see the potential we could bloody make a living, you know.
So Neil was obviously wanted a career out of it, you know, a successful one if possible.
Incredibly stressful for me. I think for GR too, because he was always keen. He was always, I'm there, you know. But then if the other stuffed up, if Sammy or Gordon or someone else didn't want to go, then he'd get the shits about it and hit the grog or whatever, and everything would be in chaos, you know.
Then I got more bass, you know, and I was still a drinker. I was still on the booze, you know.
Alcohol was an issue. It was really excessive for a while there with George, I think.
I remember one time I lent him my jacket in Sydney because he was cold, and I forgot I had my money in the pocket up here. I had like $150. And he disappeared for about 3 days. And when I see him, I go, oh, George, my jacket there, my money. And he goes, yeah, I drank it. So I was like, fair enough.
You really want to enjoy yourself tonight? Hey, sure.
And I'm ashamed up to see that he's dancing with grog in the stage.
There was no rules. We just partied on, you know, we just went on, you know.
With George, because at times his drinking did actually cruel some of the opportunities. You blow a couple of gigs or a few gigs, they're not interested in you anymore. There's plenty of other people they can support.
So I'm going around town trying to find GR, and I find him, and I just grabbed him and dragged him out of this house. Come on, you fucking bastard. We're going on tour, you know, and we're wrestling in the dirt and stuff. And, you know, he's pretty drunk, you know. Come on, you bastard. We're going on tour. Fuck you, bastard. I said, I love you, bastard. And he just broke. Oh, didn't know you felt like that. I love you too. We're hugging each other, you know.
I just stopped and I hated grog.
You were a drinker, weren't you? Heavy
I
drinker.
was a drinker. I started off singing about 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I started off singing with the alcohol on my hand.
On stage?
And I was singing about, when are you going to stop drinking? And I was singing that song, and I was falling all over the place, you know. And the next minute I realized that I was cheating them.
I would try to stop him from drinking, but couldn't. I couldn't stop him from drinking. I used to pray for him, and it really did help. The Lord answered my prayers that he started to stop drinking.
He might have found some religion at the same time. It seemed to correspond with him suddenly being kind of very obsessed with Christianity in a born-again sort of way. That was sort of part of it, I think. I think the penny might have finally dropped because he started to really like this show business and wanting to perform. And I said, what about when you go on tour? You drink? Oh, no, I'm finished for drinking, he was saying.
I think it must have been hard for George to see the biggest event to ever take place in Australia, the Olympics, and a Warumpi Band song has made it all the way to the Olympics, and he's not the one to represent that story.
Everyone was up and how come Chris Arno did that song, you know? That's a Warumpi Band song. I said, look, anyone can do anyone's song, you know? It's an honour for you to have a song sung by different people, you know? I'm trying to say that, you know? Oh, no, she shouldn't do that song, you know? But I always felt a bit sorry for GR that our version wasn't the mainstream hit. If it was my choice, I would have loved for him to be singing it at the closing ceremony of the Olympics. But I don't think the mainstream was up to having him sing it. They saw this beautiful young Indigenous girl sing it, and that's the commercial reality is people latched onto that. You know.
Why did you write that song?
I feel homesick when I was in Alice, and I was thinking, oh, look, 6 years, long year. For a long time I missed my country, you know. And some of I wrote, and most of them was written by Neil Murray, because he was looking at me, and then he wrote that song about me.
Because it was about his life, I suppose he presumed that he might kind of made the... In his mind, he somehow felt it was his song, but it might fell away in copyright law because I wrote the song. It's my song and then I wrote it, you know.
He was in Papunya and he was growling that he'd missed his home. And, you know, had Neil Murray being a smart man that he is, just sat there and thought, yeah, keep going, George, keep going, this is great, and bang. And so My Island Home was done, but it was... And he couldn't understand how come he's not getting money for that song that's his story about his home, and he didn't realise, but that's when he first started to realise that he had to be the songwriter, he had to write the song and put his name on it.
It can be a syndrome with lead singers, I think, in some cases. The singer that sings a song becomes associated in the public's mind with the song. So it's a very small step sometimes for them to say, oh, yes, I wrote it, you know.
We have traveled to so many places, heard many sad stories of our people's struggle.
We did have a bit of a blue one time after a gig in Perth, and he was at a stage when I felt he was becoming a bit disrespectful of those he worked with. He was just getting completely taken by the adulation of being the lead singer and seeing himself as almost as separate to the band. He was saying, oh, I made them all get up. They did it. It was me. I made them all get up, you know. And so I just said, look, you weren't the only one there. We were there backing you up, you know, making the show work too, you know. He said, oh, no, they got it from me. I'm the one who did it, you know, this sort of thing. So I just said in a small voice, I said, well, who writes the songs? And he rose up in his seat and he glared at me. He said, yes, you write the songs, but I sing them. They get the message from me, you know. That was a fundamental difference of our views. I always felt the song was paramount. He felt the singer's paramount. I felt I'd had enough, you know. So in 2000, we decided to make officially retire in 2000.
This is like letting everybody know that we are finishing Warumpi Band at Stomping Ground, and we'll be doing a finish-up tour there, finish up Warumpi Band there. It's time to change, sister. And
he wasn't happy about me calling it a day, but I gave him plenty of warning, plenty of notice. And I explained the reasons why to him and stuff. He was pretty dark on me for a while.
I was working for 25 years with Warumpi Band, and I know all around Australia we have biggest fan, and our name Warumpi Band will be there because we were the first Aboriginal people to take that rock and roll to the mainstream. This is at Old Creek, place where we first played the Warumpi Band. The hall was over there. Hope we can meet Sammy Butcher today. We're supposed to be meeting each other here and then travel together from here to Halls Creek. I mean, from Halls Creek to Fitzroy, then to Broome.
He hasn't really played with the band since '96. He's done 1 gig a year whenever we've gone through Alice Springs. And I personally felt it, the band lost a lot of strength when he decided he didn't want to tour anymore. So it was difficult to keep it going because it lost that link to Papunya because he's from there.
Hey, how you mob going? Well, these guys behind me have been coming to Topham Ground now for a very long time. So please, welcome to the stage, the one and only Warumpi Band.
The Warumpi Band, I was working with them for 21 years. Now, it's about time for me to go solo. But I'm still a front man. You won't miss me. I'll be still in your community. I'll still be in your town. So don't worry.
Wake up, Australia! Who's gonna save ya? Not the USA, not the UK.
I think it had to finish for him to do other things. So he found an extra kind of dimension. And I think he grew as a performer.
Hello, welcome to Away on ABC Radio National. George Warumpi is the former lead singer of the legendary Warumpi Band. Now George is back on the stage, but this time with his one-man autobiographical show called Nepu.
One day, that he saw a boat, and it was a dust boat coming to his land.
Those things that he shared were important to him, you know, that's what kept him performing, you know, kept him celebrating his Aboriginality, his, you know, his sense as a, you know, as a man on this country. And we saw that importance. We saw that, you know, his country was important to him. His family were important.
And my grandfather heard, fire!
Our fathers were strong those days before our visitors came to Australia. So we learn all those skills through our painting and through our dance and through our songs.
He sang about his country, where he was from, you know, what his totem was. So it was a different George cultural side, you know.
Dad will always take us hunting and tell us what the poison or what not to eat or eat.
My father taught him and me, our culture we will share. Like, never mind that in Yolngu Mata, in Aboriginal way, Aboriginal languages, but they were still sharing it to the other world.
Some people think that I act like a white person, but I'm not. I act both, but I'm still a black.
And of course that was Galku from George Warumpi's new album Nurbu or Message. We're going to play some more songs off that album, but tell us, you know, with Island Home, because that's one of the most famous, I think, some of us see it almost as our national anthem.
Yeah.
And there's been quite a few versions over the years. What would be one of your favourite versions?
Ronawanga.
The one in language?
Yeah. I decided to do my Island Home, but in my own language.
I remember thinking at that time, wow, that George was really entering a time in his life where he was going to be a senior statesman. And on stage, his performance was so compelling. You know, he came on with a black cape around him and started singing Island Home. And at the appropriate moment, he just dropped the whole cape. There was Superman in the full colours, red, black and yellow, and he just delivered that song like his life depended on it. And of course it did. And afterwards I realised that I think he knew that was his last performance.
On the sea again, and I'm holding a long-term spear, and I feel I'm close now to where it must be. My island home is a wind for moon. My island home.
Sammy rang me. He said, "Have you heard from George?" I said, "No." He said, "He's not well. He collapsed in Melbourne and he's having tests in Darwin. You should ring him." So I rang him. And he didn't sound good on the phone. He was pretty croaky and weak, you know. I said, "You crook?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I can't hardly walk." I said, "Shit." I said, "What's the doctor saying?" He said, "Oh, waiting on tests."
They did some tests on him and that, and he just said to me, "I don't think this is working. I've got to go home. I've got to see my bush doctor." And then about a week later, I got a call from the doctor and they were asking for him if he was there. And I said no, and they said, "Look, it's very urgent that we get in touch with him." I said, "As far as I know, he's going to go back and see a bush doctor." And they said a bush doctor won't help him in what we've got for him, bad news, you know.
He told me from Melbourne that he was feeling sick in the knees, but it wasn't the knees, but it was the sickness that he had in the lungs. And that's the time when I was called out to go see him in hospital. The doctors really wanted to let me know what was going on in his life. From hospital, he had to go back home to Elko Island. So that's where he wanted his life to end up on the island.
One week later, and the doctor called. It was really urgent for me and Loretta to fly to Darwin to pick him up. And then the doctor told us that he was really sick and can't survive anymore. Yeah, that's the sad thing that I can remember. It's really sad for me.
I rang him again. And I remembered about 4 years previously when my own father had died, I'd rang up GR to tell him, and immediately he'd just broken down on the phone, sobbing, and said, "Daddy's gone to his home," you know. And I was just struck by his instant empathy, you know. So I thought, well, I've got to give something back to him now, you know. So I got a charter and went over and spent half a day with him. And I was just shocked to see him. His body just wasted and thin. But he still had that grin, you know, but his face was all sunken back in his skull. And he was bearing up, you know. He said, "I'm trying very hard." I said, "I see that. Just have a rest, you know. Take it easy. Don't get up for me." We just sat around. We didn't talk that much. And I had the plane to catch back, you know. And, so finally I just went out and I said, "You know, we did good work in the Warumpi band, you know. We made the country sit up and take notice, you know." Gave him an important message. And he's trying to get up and he says, "Yeah," he said, "You, me and Sammy, Warumpi band was the first." And he couldn't sort of say any more. Anyway, he'd got some help and I was about to get in the bloody Toyota and he'd come out with all the others. And I just said, "Oh, bye." And he was sort of like, born. He says, "Good night." I'd laugh about that a few years later, the last little quip, you know, "Good night," you know. And I took off, and that was the last time I saw him, and like within 2 months, he passed away.
Pioneer of Aboriginal rock music, dubbed the Black Mick Jagger, has been given a big farewell at a memorial service on his island home, 500 kilometres east of Darwin. George Warumpi, the former lead singer of the Warumpi band, was today celebrated as a champion of reconciliation.
Tonight we bring together the Gumat and the Lurija people in memory of my late husband. He was the former lead singer of the Warumpi band, first Gumat man to be recognised for leading the indigenous music movement of the Northern Territory.
He was a musician, a dancer, a hunter, a great teacher. He was everything.
He had two ways. His way, culture, Watfall way, you know, music. He sang in Warumpi band, but he sang with culture back on Elko Island. So he's special in a way.
He said on stage, "I'll be buried with a microphone," he said. And of course, Sammy made sure that happened.
He really understood the role, I think, that he had to play in society, coming out of a traditional community and going into mainstream Australia. His job was to bring that sense of culture and tradition into the mainstream. And he did that. He did that.
Never mind, he'll lose his life, young man. But the music will never stop. Music gonna go beyond.
When he died, I rang the minister's office in the Northern Territory and said, you know, he's passed away. What are you mob going to do about the funeral? He should have a state funeral. And a guy who I respect said, we don't give funerals to musicians. And I was so disappointed that he didn't get the essence of George and his importance, because I saw George and the Warumpi Band play to thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people all around Australia, and I saw what they did, and I saw how George could reach out and touch people, you know, in the audience, and move people and open their hearts and make them celebrate and embrace Aboriginality. You know, that's what his great thing was, is like, come with me, have fun, embrace me. I might be black, as he said, but don't be scared, you know. Party with me, be with me. And that's very important for non-Indigenous Australians, to be able to cross that massive cultural divide that exists and just dance with us and sing our songs.